Welcome to Chad, her YouTube channel. Today I have for you a scary story titled, The Bushcraft Grove. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and hit that notification button for more upcoming videos. The Bushcraft Grove. It was supposed to be a solo survival retreat, a 7-day isolation challenge in one of North America's deepest forests, somewhere along the foothills near the southern edge of the Appalachian Range, where the tree line thickens and satellite signals vanish. It was the kind of place where even birds flew in silence, and the wind barely reached the forest floor. Most just called it the Hollow Grove, though no official map bore the name. Eric Halden, a 34-year-old wilderness instructor and bushcraft YouTuber, had chosen the spot precisely because of its remoteness. He wanted to prove a point: how to survive with only a knife, a ferro rod, and the clothes on your back. No tents, no GPS, no backup, just pure skill. He'd hiked in for nearly 6 hours that morning, his only company being the whispering canopy and the crunch of leaf litter underfoot. The trees here didn't look like the ones he'd seen in other parts of the Appalachians. Their bark was pale and veiny, with branches that curled upward like pleading hands. He brushed it off as a natural variation. The deeper you went, the stranger things got. That was the allure. By evening, he found a clearing near a small creek, a perfect site to build shelter. He set to work collecting dead wood and saplings, using his knife to split limbs for a lean-to. By the time the sun began to slip behind the ridges, his shelter stood firm, insulated with moss and bark. He lit a fire with birch bark and sparks from the ferro rod, then settled in for the night. But the sounds here weren't right. There were no owls hooting, no rustling in the underbrush, no frogs chirping by the creek. Just silence. Heavy, pressing silence. When he listened hard enough, Eric could swear he heard a low hum, just at the edge of hearing, almost like something vibrating in the earth beneath him. He chalked it up to fatigue and crawled into his shelter. He woke up around 3 a.m., disoriented and cold. The fire had died out. But that wasn't what disturbed him. It was the prints. Around the ashes of the fire and the faint light of the moon were footprints, bare, human footprints. Small, narrow feet. Children's feet. At least 4 different sets, circling his fire. Eric sat frozen, listening. No movement, no voices. Just the distant rush of the creek and that damned hum, now louder than before, almost pulsing. He stood slowly, knife in hand, and scanned the tree line. Nothing moved, but his gut told him he was being watched. The next morning, the tracks were gone. Vanished. Even though the soil was soft and damp, they'd left no trace. The fire pit looked untouched. He tried to rationalize. Maybe he'd dreamt it. Sleepwalking? Hallucination? But that hum, it never stopped. On day 2, he ventured further out, trying to gather wild edibles and possibly trap small game. The forest grew denser in every direction. He noticed something strange. No birds, no squirrels, no deer tracks, nothing. It was as if the entire area was void of life. Still, he found some fiddlehead ferns, wild onions, and made a broth over his fire that night. Then came the laughter. It started soft, like children giggling somewhere in the dark. Then a sharp shushing noise, like an adult scolding them. He bolted upright, scanning with his knife in hand. Shadows moved between the trees, thin and low to the ground, but too fast to track. He called out, "Who's there? You're not supposed to be out here." No answer. He slept with the knife gripped tightly, fire blazing high. Day 3, the creek water had turned black. No, not muddy, not brackish. Black, like oil or ink. He dipped a leaf in and sniffed. No smell. But when he touched it, it clung to his fingers like syrup. That's when he noticed the trees. All around the grove, their bark had changed overnight. Gone were the pale veins. Now they bore carvings, deep, primitive symbols he didn't recognize. Spirals, eyes, human shapes with crossed-out faces. They hadn't been there before. He was sure of it. He packed what little he had and decided to head back early. But no matter which direction he walked, the land didn't change. He followed the creek upstream, then downhill. An hour passed, then 3. But the creek still passed by his camp. It didn't make sense. By nightfall, he knew the truth. He was walking in circles, or the forest was shifting around him. The firewood burned too fast that night. He gathered more, but it crumbled in his hands like brittle bones. The laughter returned, closer now, and chanting. Low, guttural, in no language he recognized. He shouted again, cursing, threatening whoever was playing games, but the only answer was the hum. It had changed pitch now, a warble, almost like a whisper just behind his ear. He didn't sleep. Day 4. The sun didn't rise. The sky remained dim gray, like twilight stretched across eternity. The shadows were longer, twitchier, as if moving of their own will. Eric tried building signal fires, huge plumes of smoke, but even the smoke coiled downward and vanished into the ground. He took out his notebook, the one he'd planned to use for filming and notes, and wrote everything down. If someone found it later, at least they'd know he tried to survive. Then he saw her. A girl, maybe 8 years old, standing by the tree line. She wore a tattered white dress, her hair matted and dark. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at him with wide, white eyes. No irises, no pupils, just empty white. He called out, quietly. "Hey, are you lost? Are you okay?" She didn't answer, just raised a hand and pointed behind him. Eric turned. There were more. Dozens of them, children with hollow eyes, some crawling on all fours, others hanging from tree limbs like spiders. Their skin was pale, cracked, and their mouths opened far too wide. And behind them the trees split open. The bark curled back like peeling skin, revealing hollows that breathed, inhaling and exhaling, as if the forest itself were alive and hungry. Eric ran. He didn't care about the direction anymore. He pushed through thorns, branches ripping at his clothes and skin. The hum grew louder. No, it wasn't a hum now. It was chanting, words in a dead language. Yahalavena, Kuthal-Shara, Yahalavena. Over and over. His legs gave out somewhere near a ridge, and he rolled, tumbling into a dry ravine. He lay there, gasping, eyes wide. The sky above was wrong, twisting, flickering, as if reality itself was breaking. Then the forest fell silent again. Day 5, or 6. Time no longer made sense. Eric had stopped counting. He ate tree bark, lichen, whatever he could find. The girl followed him always, sometimes in front of him, sometimes behind, but never closer than 20 feet. She never blinked. That night he tried to set a trap. Not for food, for her. He dug a pit, covered it with brush, baited it with a pile of berries he'd found growing from a stump shaped like a rib cage. But it wasn't her who fell in. It was himself. When he looked down into the pit, he saw his own face, broken and bruised, staring back up. The figure in the hole mouthed the word "leave" over and over again, though no sound came out. Then black vines slithered up from the earth and dragged the figure down into the dark. Eric ran again, this time toward the trees that didn't hum, that didn't breathe. He found one, just one, that looked normal. An oak tree with solid bark, its roots knotted but grounded. He pressed his back to it, whispering prayers he hadn't said since he was a boy. That's when the girl came close. Close enough to touch. She knelt beside him and said in a whisper that wasn't a whisper, "You shouldn't have come." "Why?" he croaked. "What is this place?" She tilted her head. "This is where the forgotten go, the lost. You fed the fire, now the fire feeds on you." He closed his eyes. And when he opened them again, it was bright. Birds chirping, sky blue. He was lying on a ranger station cot, an IV in his arm. A man in a green uniform sat nearby, sipping coffee. "You're lucky," the ranger said. "A couple of hikers found you passed out on the trail 2 days ago. No gear, no shoes, just this notebook in your hand." Eric blinked. The kids. The grove." The ranger raised an eyebrow. "You mean Hollow Grove?" "Yeah, a lot of folks talk about that place. Locals say it's haunted or cursed. Been that way since the old settlements vanished." Eric looked out the window. The trees swayed gently, normal, harmless. But then he saw her, the girl, standing at the edge of the parking lot. She smiled, and this time she blinked. Thanks for listening, brave souls. If you enjoyed this tale, like, subscribe, and share it with those who love a shiver in the dark. Until next time, keep your campfire burning.